Welcome to another fun-filled edition of Second City Sports Zoom style.
Zoom style.
Along with Lakeena McGee, which is she. I am Cindy Brown. Damn it, it's me. You can find yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, at SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow me at Keena McGee on the Twitter and at Keena_McGee on the IG.
You can catch this podcast, Second City Sports, exclusively on YouTube first every Tuesday and every Friday. Every Monday, every Friday. Good grief, I almost messed that up. Every Monday and every Friday right here on YouTube at War Media. Once again, at WARR Media. You can catch Second City Sports first. You can watch it on YouTube at War Media every Monday and Friday. Our podcast schedule is still the same. You can listen to it every Tuesday and Saturday at War on Anchor. Once again, at WARR on Anchor every Tuesday and Saturday. You can find us on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. Just type in the search engine box, WARR on Anchor. And you could go to our website, weareregalradio.com, for more details. And you can follow us on all social media platforms, that's Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at War Media. Once again, at WARR Media. That's Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. In advance, thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
And we are unapologetically fun. And Lakeena, since we are here in Chicago, let's have some fun and start off with great news from my favorite team. And my favorite team is the Chicago White Sox. As we get into some baseball talk, the Chicago White Sox, the Southsiders, swept the young and terrible Texas Rangers over the weekend down there at Sox Park. Friday's game was a 16-inch softball, to say the least, but they came out of there with a 9-7 victory. Saturday's game, it was a 2-1 win in extra innings. Not in extra innings, in the bottom of the ninth, thanks to Nick Madrigal, a.k.a. Nicky, for the game-winning hit. And Sunday's game, which saw an outstanding performance from Michael Kopech, who did a spot start in place of Lucas Giolito, striking out 10 through 5 innings, a career high from him. The Rangers went down to the White Sox 8-4 as the White Sox did what they had to do in sweeping away a young and terrible team. Lakeena, as I said on this show in our last episode, the worst that could have happened to the White Sox is taking 2 out of 3. They did what they had to do in sweeping away the Rangers at home. Of course, starting this week, you have the Tigers here for 3, and then you have Cleveland here for 3 games over the weekend before you go out on a road trip. A couple things that stood out to me outside of Michael Kopech. Saturday's game, I'm going to the right side of my brain, which is the emotional side of my brain for those of you new listeners. The left side of my brain is my intelligent side of my brain. The right side of my brain got a little crazy on Saturday. Liam Hendricks had another blown save. And then, of course, Nick Madrigal saved the Sox with that game-winning hit on Saturday in Game 2 of that series. Game 1 of that series, Dylan Cease did not look good. I know he has the potential to do some great things on the South Side. I know when we had our White Sox preview show, I know a couple of our analysts said that Dylan Cease had the potential to win 20 games. But I don't know if you caught the post-game presser on Friday. Dylan Cease talked about how he's still trying to work things out and is mostly in his head. If that's the case, that's a problem. This young man has all the talent in the world, and I think he will eventually figure it out. But right now, it's all in his head. And sometimes you just got to block out what everybody else is saying, including the media and crazy fans, social media, and all that. I think once he does that, he finally figures it out, just focusing on himself and what the team needs him to do, he'll be okay. But despite a couple of hiccups, the Sox did what they had to do. Hopefully this will get them on a roll. To start off this, hopefully, a winning season.
Well, look, for me, look, you did what you're supposed to do against I wouldn't say they're terrible. Look, they've got some players on the Rangers. They're young, but again, you're better than them. So, excuse me, I can't talk today. But look, you did what you're supposed to do. I mean, look, Kyle Gibson kind of kept it close. That was a nice little pitcher's do on Saturday. Look, Nick Martigal, look, are we back to liking him again? because I know Sox fans have this love-hate relationship with him. So I guess after Saturday night, you're back to liking him. But I mean, look, you did what you're supposed to do. I mean, you got a tough schedule coming up against your divisional opponents, and look, you did what you're supposed to do, and look, you had a little hiccup, but you're able to pull some of those games out. And look, I think you're going to have these types of series where I think that even the worst teams are going to push you. So and the Rangers did, and look, I think the White Sox were able to pull it out. So I'm not like, oh, okay, they swept the Rangers, yippee, yay, okay, yeah, okay, fine, you're better than the Rangers, okay, you did what you're supposed to do. Look, I'm kind of tired of the excuses with Cease. I think he's gotten to the point where this is not his first year in the league. This is like his third full year in the league. And I'm not, and I think that he needs to kind of get out of his own head. I don't know if it's confidence. I don't care if it's physical. I don't know if it's anything like that, but I think he needs to kind of get out of it because he's going to get out of that front end of that rotation really quick if he doesn't get it together. Now, the good news is that the White Sox offense was able to kind of get him out. He was able to get out of those messes that he was in, but he kind of needs to sort of like, if he wants to be in that front part of the rotation with Rodon and Giolito, I think he needs to kind of like get that confidence going, get his changeup going, get that fastball going, because he's going to be in the doghouse, the Rooster doghouse pretty quick.
And also too, going back to Sunday's game, Michael Kopech, of course, if you really paid attention, he was on a pitch count, just like his spot starting that doubleheader game last Sunday at Boston. Kopech's on the pitch count. Of course, he's starting the year in the bullpen. But if Michael Kopech keeps pitching like this, like you said, Dylan Cease will be the odd man out once Lance Lynn comes back. Of course, he's the other star who's currently on the DL. But if Kopech keeps pitching like that and these spot stars, like you said, it'll be Cease will be the one that's out and going to the bullpen, and Michael Kopech taking his spot. So, like you said, whatever problems that Dylan Cease has, he has to figure it out pretty quickly. Just you got to have that bulldog mentality. Don't pick scared, be aggressive, and you'll be fine. He has some stuff, but like you say, you had to, like I said before, you just got to get out of your own way. Block everything out. Just worry about what the team needs you to do, and you'll be okay.
Yeah, just concentrate on what you need to do. You're not gonna be able to control everything or control all of anything else that goes on. We'll all behind the plate and whatnot. So I think that's what he needs to do. He kind of get his head, get his head in the game, as they say. So, and I think like you said, we'll see what happens. I mean, can Kopech keep with this hot start? I mean, this is sort of like what people were expecting when they drafted him. So will we get that from him? I don't know. Maybe maybe this is sort of a start of him being a big star, or once hitters start figuring him out, maybe that'll happen. So look, I think if you're a White Sox fan, I'd be encouraged to start with Kopech, especially after what happened last year. Sort of mentally decided to take that year off, and some other personal stuff that's happened. You can Google that. We're not going to talk about it, but he's looked really good, and I think that's what you want if you're the White Sox. You want that depth in starting pitching, because sometimes the bullpen might let you down, and sometimes the offense, it'll be weird, but the offense sometimes will not show up. It just happens. So if you need that pitch, to sort of stay consistent throughout. And especially since we'll talk about Kansas City in a minute. Look what KC is doing. It's just absurd what they're doing. They got their best record since even when they won the World Series a few years back. So I think if you're the White Sox, you need to kind of keep that consistency and keep that that train moving.
You're listening to Second City Sports along with Lakeena McGee, which is she. I am Sidney Brown. Guess what, folks? That's me. As we talk about the Chicago White Sox sweep over the Texas Rangers on the South Side last weekend. Lakeena, I want to focus in on Nick Madrigal. He had that game-winning hit on Saturday for that 2-1 victory. Going into Sunday's game, he leads the league in batting average with 2 strikes with 408. This young man is coming on right now. You mentioned the love-hate relationship that some Sox fans have with them. I don't get it, Lakeena. Of course, I know he didn't play all of last year. He was brought up right in the middle of that 60-game season last year. He still hasn't found his footing yet, but I like the way he approaches the game at the plate. Now his defense is starting to get better, so I'm watching that from him as well. But at the plate, I don't need him to hit 20 home runs. I just need him to to make contact with the ball and put the ball in play. I know one of the hardest things to do in sports is to hit a baseball. Okay, not everybody gets a chance to do it consistently. Okay, but Nick Madrigal is leading the league in batting average with 2 strikes. He rarely strikes out, so you have to be proud of him for that. He's very aggressive at the plate. You saw that on Saturday's win, and if you hating on Nick Madrigal right now, I don't see it. It looks like he's starting to turn it around at the plate. And Yermin Mercedes, like you mentioned that Michael Kopech, some of the hitters may start to figure him out. I'm sure that's going to come with time, but I'm not saying that that the league is going to figure him out. Eventually, that's going to happen in terms of Yermin Mercedes, but I like the way he's having his approach with 2 strikes as well. I think he's number 5 and number 4 going into Sunday's action with batting average with 2 strikes. He's not just sitting on the long ball. He's very aggressive. So he's just looking to get a hit. So the Yamaneta is not just a home run hitter, folks, even though we like to see it as fans, but he's just trying to get on base. So that's what you like to see, especially from a young player.
Well, and like I said just a few minutes ago, I hope Mercedes can keep this up. I mean, once pitchers, get tape on him and start to see, what kind of things he likes to hit and those type of things. So I would say just enjoy this ride because you don't know how long it's going to take, how long it's going to be. But look, I think he's being aggressive, but he's not being too aggressive, and I think that's what you want if you're a young hitter. And look, we'll see what he does, and I'm looking forward to see what he does the rest of this season. Hopefully, he can keep it up. But numbers show that it doesn't always happen. So I think whatever you can get from him, try to get as much as you can as from Madrigal. I mean, look, like I said before, Sox have had a love-hate relationship with him in the last couple of years. So I don't know. I mean, yes, his defense has gotten better. As long as he doesn't do any type of mental lapses, I think he'll be okay. And I kind of feel like, look, yes, he's going to. Hopefully he is not a defensive liability because I think that's the sort of thing, especially if you're in a very tight division, as we're gonna see, talk about in a little bit. So I'm just enjoying what I'm seeing right now from both, and hopefully both of them, hopefully Marginal can kind of keep this streak going, and hopefully Mercedes can keep doing what he's doing because I think if you're a White Sox fan, this is what you want, and it looks like you may have a fight in AL Central. So you're gonna need these guys to kind of keep up with this. With this hot start, and hopefully, this will lead to Tim Anderson, who had a nice, had an RBI a couple of RBIs over the weekend. Hopefully, Abreu can, get to be like right there in his MVP numbers from last year. So I'm not. Look, I'm liking what I'm seeing right now from this White Sox team. Could they be having a better record? Could they have a better record right now? Of course, but again, this is sort of like where you think they would be when you start the season.
Yeah, speaking of one of those players that we need to keep our eye on, that we said this player's name before the season got started, and I said this player's name for the last couple of episodes that needed to turn it around. I had confidence in. That's Yohan Moncada. So far in these last 7 games, he's had a total of 7 hits out of 16 plate appearances with a home run and 4 RBI. Of course, in the series over the weekend against the Rangers, he had that home run on Friday. He had another RBI on Sunday. He's starting to take his play discipline seriously. He only struck out 4 times in the last 7 games. Of course, he's struggled with that to start the season. That's been his kryptonite ever since he was brought up here about 2 or 3 years ago. So it looks like he's starting to learn. He's starting to become patient. He's still going to strike out here and there, but you don't want those strikeouts to become that statistic become more than the hits, because if that's the case, that's going to be a problem. But right now, it's not a problem for Yohan Moncada. So he's starting to turn around, like you mentioned, Lakeena, with Nick Madrigal. I know some Sox fans want to wring the neck of Yohan Moncada, saying that term loosely, of course, but Moncada's starting to turn around. So if you have any complaints about him, you just haven't been watching baseball.
Yep. And like I said, it'll be very interesting to see, how far this White Sox team, how far, can Madrigal and Mercedes, how can they keep up? Can Luis Robert, he's had his struggles. Hopefully he can kind of get back into it. And Tim Anderson, he's coming back from an injury, so hopefully he can get back into the groove. So like I said, I mean, the depth is there for the White Sox, and I think that hopefully this is the start of a nice run the schedule's there for them to kind of make that run. So hopefully this is just a start for them.
And also, too, Jose Abreu, I know he struggled out of the season coming out of the gate outside that grand slam against the Angels in that first series of the year. Also, he's been performing well in his last 7 games with 3 home runs, I should say, and 6 RBI. I know he had that big 2-run shot to blow the game wide open in Sunday's win over Texas, and he's putting the ball in play. It looks like he's finding the way to let the game come to him. He was pressing on to start the year. You can appreciate him being aggressive, but you can't do everything with one guy. And so, as we mentioned before the season kicked off, the White Sox still have talent up and down the lineup to produce runs. And Jose Abreu is a part of it. So far, he's showing that when he lets the game come to him, not put too much pressure on himself. Look at the results.
Yeah, I think the results are kind of speak for themselves. And like I said, know your personnel. So, like I said, hopefully he can kind of. No one's really asking him to sort of be back to the AL MVP numbers that he had last year. No one was expecting that. No, everyone knows that that's going to be hard to do. But hopefully, he can kind of be at least if he just be like a fraction of what he was last year. I think the White Sox can definitely be right there for that division and perhaps even win it. So it'll be interesting to see what he does. Now let's go to the north side for a second, Sid. Unfortunately, if you're a Cubs fan, Friday's game, you were encouraged. They scored 15 runs. But unfortunately, you lost the last 2 to Milwaukee. The Milwaukee's had your number. So Sid, what do you think? Because I'll save my that kind of stuff. So we'll Sid, what do you think? What say you about what's been going on with the Cubs this past weekend, I should say?
As I said before, I hate repeating myself, but I'll say it one more again, as the kids would say. I accept for what this Cubs team is. They're a sporadic bunch when it comes to offense. They'll put up double-digit runs here and there. If they win a game, they'll barely score about 4 or 5 runs, which is probably about the normal average anyway for Major League Baseball team to score runs to win a game. I accept the fact they'll score between 3 and 5 runs to try to win a game, and they hope that they'll get great starting pitching. But they'll go on long stretches where they'll score a total of 5 runs for like 6 or 7 games. This is what this Cubs team has been over the last 3 or 4 years. And you looking at this team with a much stripped down roster from years past, and this is what they are right now. So I accept that. What I will not accept is players, feeling sorry for themselves, saying that we got to turn it around, which of course you have to, if you want to win. But what I will not accept as well, and I think we talked about this in our last episode, I'm not going to accept the fact that this is early. We're almost at the end of April, okay? And we're about to go into May. And the schedule is going to get tough for the Cubs these next couple of weeks. We'll give you the schedule in a bit. But I'm not going to accept the fact that it's early anymore. Oh, the weather's bad. Oh, we got to wait till our superstars get hot. We got to wait for this to happen. We got to wait for that to happen. Somebody go out and make something happen. Like we talked about with the White Sox just a moment ago, it's not going to be up just to just one guy. Everybody has to play their role. And right now, I'm not seeing that from the Chicago Cubs. Now, let's go into that series for the Brewers this past weekend. Friday's game was great if you love offense, okay? Looks like I said before, if the Cubs are going to win big, they'll score double-digit runs, but realistically, you're not going to expect that, especially from this team game to game. Saturday's game, they were right there. The bullpen gave it away. I watched the last 2 games of that series in its entirety via my computer from the Milwaukee Brewers broadcast team. But Saturday's game, they were right there. They gave it away. That bullpen, as I told you, is one of the concerns that I had with this team coming into the year. Sunday's game, Jake Arrieta, who's been their best pitcher, period. He deserved a better fate than that. And once he exited the game, the bullpen gave it away again. There was a couple of bad errors in that ninth inning on Sunday. Jake Arrieta didn't deserve that, but the rest of that team deserved that loss because you weren't aggressive enough. It looks like you were just going through the motions, and that's unacceptable, especially for this Cubs team. As we mentioned before, Lakeena, this NL Central is up for grabs. We'll get into the rest of the division in a minute, but Milwaukee, as we told you guys, they're the wild card of this division, and it looks like it's going to be that way. I'm not handing them the division title just yet, but it looks like they're playing the best right now, and they whether you like it or not, they have the Cubs number.
Well, here's the thing though with that division. Like I said, I'll talk about the division now. I mean, you look at what's been going on in that division. I mean, look, Pittsburgh won their series, and also too, I mean, the Cardinals got the best of the Reds. The Reds have completely been in free fall. They've lost 7 in a row as of this recording. The Pirates, I mean, they're at 500, and yeah, I mean, the Brewers are 13-8. Okay, yippee. Okay, Yelich is, could be back. He's had, an injury. It turns out it wasn't as serious as they thought, so that's good news for them. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But they're not running away with it just yet. I mean, look, the Cardinals have, like I said, they swept the Reds. I mean, the Reds have been in free fall. Look, that division is right there. I mean, there are no excuse for that loss on Sunday. Cubs. I mean, yeah, Arrieta, had a shaky start. He gave it that early run, but he was dealing the whole way. And unfortunately, the offense didn't show up, and neither did the bullpen. The bullpen has been terrible for the Cubs, and those last 2 games where they could have easily won, they could have swept this series. And I don't want to have to look back on these types of series and say, well, you should have won, or you could have scored more runs, or you've had like an ill-timed error or that kind of thing. So I'm not at the point where, look, I'm not going to make an excuse of saying that, we're about 3 weeks in, so they should be getting it together. But the division's right there. The Brewers are gonna sink, level off. That's gonna happen because that's been sort of the thing with these NL Central division teams, I should say. So no one's going to run away with that division. You've got a chance to win it. If you don't want, the Ricketts family to start trading guys by the trade deadline, to trade KB and those, and guys like that, you better get together. And look, you've got Atlanta, and the Cubs got Atlanta, early this week, and look, the Braves have had their issues. This last couple of weeks, they've been sort of, meandering. I mean, you could have won their series. You split the series with them. So the schedule's there for them to kind of like make catch up here. So I'm not going to make excuses, but at the same time, I'm not going to say that, well, the Brewers are going to run with the division. I don't think no one's going to run with that division. They're not. Every team in the NL Central has weaknesses. And there's various weaknesses. So that division is going to be right there for the taking, by the trade deadline. So we'll see what happens.
I want to go back to the pitching for the Chicago Cubs. We talked about the struggles of Kyle Hendricks to start the year, but as I said on this program before the season kicked off, Jake Arrieta, you're not going to get 2015 or 2016 Jake Arrieta. You're going to get this mature, hopefully, Jake Arrieta. So far, he's giving you what he's got so far. And like I said before, he didn't deserve that fate on Sunday, as the team lost the game in the 9th inning. They were trailing 1-0, but the Brewers blew it open in the 9th inning. Jake Arrieta didn't deserve that fate. He's been their best pitcher so far. Also, let's give some credit too to Albert Alzolay. He pitched well on Saturday, and I thought that David Ross took him out just a little bit too early in that 5th inning on Saturday. Now, whether Alzolay was on a pitch count, I don't know. I'm assuming that he was, or it was just a gut move by manager Ross. But whatever the reason was, I didn't think that Alzolay deserved to be taken out of that game. He was actually dealing, and the Brewers weren't a real threat at the time. And so the game was still right there for the taking for the Cubs. You can partially blame David Ross for that loss on Saturday, but Sunday's loss was on the players. Now, the starting pitching for the Cubs has been okay, despite the struggles of Kyle Hendricks. But part of it is David Ross, but most of it is on the players with the offense and their bullpen. Their bullpen did not show up these last 2 games of that series against Milwaukee.
Well, the middle relief, we said that middle relief was going to be an issue for them, and
they got exposed.
If for like a third of the games this year, for some of those losses, I mean, if the middle relief were actually pretty good, and maybe not giving up big hits or big runs, but this Cubs team would have a better record right now. So I think that, look, there's plenty of plan to go around, and look, like I said before, that they've got Atlanta. I mean, they look the schedule. You kind of you split with Atlanta, and I think that's actually a good thing because
Mm-hmm.
Atlanta's had their struggles this year too early on. So also you got Cincy, who's been in free fall. You got the Dodgers. We'll talk about the Dodgers in a
Mm-hmm.
second. Next week, but look, I mean, is there the kind of like gain that ground? I mean, you're not. Look, no one's gonna, like I said, no one's gonna run away from the NL Central. No one's gonna run away that division. So if you want to be right there in the mix, you better be more consistent all the way around. I'm talking not just the White Sox, but I'm talking about the Cubs too. So let's talk about like the rest of the all of baseball. I have a feeling I know the answer, but what has impressed you so far, like in all of baseball? What team, what player, and such?
Let's address the big elephant in the room. That was the Los Angeles Dodgers San Diego Padres series. I'd watched just about every minute of that series, including that long ass game on Sunday night. The Padres take 3 out of 4 in Los Angeles, in Southern California. That I didn't expect. We talked about the first game from last Thursday on our last episode, which the defense came up big for the Padres with Cronenworth's double play. That was awesome to watch. Friday's game was a classic as well. Saturday's game, the Dodgers, they were down. They came back and won. And actually, Kenley Jansen actually looked good for once, closing out a game. Sunday night's game was a classic. Of course, I had to turn it off for a minute after the Dodgers went up 7-1. But Fernando Tatis Jr. was the best player on that field for both teams. He had a career weekend. Homering in 3 straight games at Dodger Stadium, the first shortstop to do that in history. Of course, over the weekend, it was the anniversary of his dad. He played for the St. Louis Cardinals. I remember he hit 2 grand slams against the LA Dodgers back 23 plus years ago. So back in 1999, to be exact. This past weekend was the anniversary of that. So Fernando Tatis Jr. was a star both at the plate and on the field. The Padres, especially in Sunday's game, which they came back from a 7-1 deficit, that team is not going away, folks. And I know some people don't want to call it a rivalry because San Diego hasn't beaten the Dodgers for anything big in terms of the playoffs, but it's going to be fun these next 12 games, and I can't wait to see. And I don't have the schedule in front of me, but I know it's going to be a while before these two teams play again. So San Diego, especially the way they came back on Sunday night to take 3 out of 4, they're not going away, folks. They do not quit. They do not quit. There's a young, talented bunch over there, and they had the players to compete with the Dodgers, and the Dodgers better wake up because we talked about it last week, Lakeena. The Padres, I know they were doing a lot of trash talking, and the Dodgers went on and did took 2 out of 3 last weekend in San Diego. But the Padres, they didn't do much talking this time. I know Fernando Tatis did a little silly eye-popping moments at his own players in the dugout, by the way, not at the Dodgers dugout. So people want to complain about that, go shut up and sit down. But sorry, not the Dodgers, but the Padres did what they had to do. I guarantee you, most people didn't expect the Padres to take 3 out of 4 in Los Angeles. I expected to be at least a split, but the Padres did not quit, and they're going to be around to be in the Dodgers' skin for this NL West division title this year. So congrats to San Diego. They really showed the fight in front of a national audience on Sunday.
I mean, the Dodgers, it was like waste opportunity by the Dodgers. I mean, that was a great comeback
Mm-hmm.
by the Padres in that Sunday night game.
Mm-hmm.
They were down 5-6, I should say. But again, you had your chances to win it in the extra innings. You had your bases were loaded. Look, Dave Roberts tried to be cute and put Clayton Kershaw out there to try to.
What was that?
Look. I mean,
Just like Joe Madden type stuff from Tampa Bay like 15 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is one of those things where, look, if it worked, if he had one, like, oh, that was ingenious. It was like the best thing. That was like a very ingenious move by Dave Roberts. The fact that he struck out, you're like, okay, what the hell was he thinking? So it was sort of like one of those things where if it worked, it would have been praised. But since it didn't, everyone's, crucifying him. So that's kind of, it is what it is with that. But look, I think, look, Tatis Jr., I mean, just amazing what he's done. That he was sort of like a one-man wrecking crew in that series. I mean, like, sort of synopsis of what his dad did, back in the day when I believe he played for the Mets and the Expos, I think, at the time, the old Montreal Expos, when he did. I think he did something very similar to what Junior did. And look, I mean, look, they're getting healthy, and we'll see. Look, we'll see we'll see once they start, kind of getting back into it. Like he says, it's going to be a while before they play each other again. I think this is the kind of series that is good for baseball. From, the initial raise for that Sunday nighter was really good. The Rays were really good for that, Brock, for those particular games. And I think they'll play for, till till June. This is the next time they play each other. So, from what I saw from my memory from the schedule. But yeah, so I think this is good for baseball. I mean, yeah, look, is it terrible that these are two West Coast teams? Of course, people are going to, complain about that. But look, this is the type of thing you want. And look, if you're the Dodgers, I think you'll get some time to kind of, calm down and kind of let that, because you kind of let this series sort of slip away from you. You could have, had a stranglehold in that division that had you won 3 out of 4 against the Padres. So, but we'll see. Look, I mean, Eric Hosmer made some big hits for them. Their pitching came through, especially their relief pitching came through for the Padres when they needed to. So, look, once call me again once the West gets closer. I know that the Giants have been playing very well right now too. But again, I don't think they're gonna. I'm not expecting them to stay, in that. I think that look, they've got some great young players for the Giants, but I don't see them hanging around in that division. Look, the Diamondbacks. I mean, that kind of, I don't think anybody saw that coming, where they won 2 out of 3. Well, 4 was postponed due to the weather, but they won 2 out of 3 against the Braves. No one really saw that coming. So I'm not look, I think that the West is sort of continues to impress. I mean, the Mariners, I know they lost, on Sunday, but they looked really good. I mean, the A's, they were on a roll. They lost, they broke, I think it was 11-game winning streak.
Yeah, congrats to John Means. No relation to Kyle Means, our teammate here at War Media. But I did check out some of that game on Sunday. John Means pitched his off. So Oakland couldn't get anything going. They gave up 5 runs in the 8th inning. So they weren't going to win every game, folks. It was fun right at last. I still have them winning that AL West division. But Baltimore got some great starting pitching on Sunday, and so they deserve the win. But I think Oakland's going to be fine.
Yeah, look, I think, and we'll see if the Mariners can stay up there. I don't think they will, but they've got a lot of great young talent up there in Seattle. Now, as for the Red Sox are still hanging around, but I mean, the Blue Jays are coming up on the come up, and so are the Rays. I mean, the Yankees, ew, gross. I mean, that's reporting they're 9-12, and they're starting to kind of, they're starting to kind of, you thought that maybe the trade's going to start moving, but then they get derailed. So I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, speaking of the Yankees, of course, they lost 7-3 on Sunday to the Indians, and that was one heck of a catch in left field by Clint Frazier, by the way, in the 8th inning there. I did watch some of that, but Saturday's game I watched in its entirety via my computer and via the YES network. Shane Bieber pitched his off for Cleveland, but Garrett Cole matched him, and the Yankees pulled a page out of the Cubs playbook, winning 2-1, and it was a great pitchers duel. As I said before, for the Yankees, Garrett Cole is the top of their rotation. I know you paid him over $300 million, okay, and I know they have Corey Kluber, the former Indian. But outside of those two, who's going to step up in the starting rotation for the Yankees? And will the Yankees start being more consistent in turning that offense around? Because I know manager Aaron Boone shuffled the lineups early last week, but it seems to be they're like the Cubs. They're schizophrenic when it comes to being consistent on offense.
And look, I think Yankees fans, I should say, should be concerned. Because a lot of people thought that they were going to not necessarily run away with that division, but they would expect them to be in first place right now. We'll see what they do. I mean, like I said, I think that they're still in the division conversation, the AL East division conversation, but they're not. No, the Red Sox aren't running away with it. I mean, look, they're all going to be playing each other, I believe, for the next few weeks. So it'll be interesting what they do. Also, a quick shout out to Madison Bumgarner. I talk about the Diamondbacks, that game Sunday. because it was a doubleheader, so unfortunately it didn't really count as a no-hitter. He had a strike.
Counted as a no-hitter.
I mean, look,
it's very hard to do.
Yeah, I mean, look,
it's very hard to do.
Yeah, short night is. I think it's like the third time that's happened. They Hasnick from Hansack for the Red Sox. I think was the last one to do it way back in '06. That was only 5 days because that was a rain shortened game, I believe. But look, you got to give him props. I mean, that was his best outing since he joined the Diamondbacks. Of course, all the great things he did when he was with San Francisco. So he's kind of started, kind of like having maybe a second act, if you will, over in Arizona. But no one's really with Arizona to really do anything. So we'll see what what happens there. But I mean,
yeah. Go ahead.
No. Yeah.
I don't know if you caught the post game. I actually watched it live via my computer, but it was Jody Jackson and former Diamondback pitcher Brandon Webb that was doing the post game, and Madison Baumgartner said, "Let me say these two things before I go celebrate. One, thank you to the Shadows in Atlanta. Number two, thank you, Commissioner Ryan Manfred, for shortening these doubleheader games to 7 innings." Mic drop.
Bye. Yeah. Oh yeah, that was funny.
You could tell you wanted to get to that celebration, and I don't know if you paid attention to those players that to his teammates after the game, the second game when he pitched the 7-inning no-hitter. They walked up to him and then they started celebrating, jumping up and down. And I said, someone that told him in his area, we're gonna count it as a no-hitter where the baseball does it now. Yeah. Exactly. So
it's not his fault. It's not his fault that they did the doubleheader rule where all doubleheaders are 7 innings. It happens.
Yeah. So congratulations to Madison Bumgarner. So for pitching a 7-inning no-hitter. We'll count it as a no-hitter on this show.
There we go.
Yep. You're listening to Second City Sports along with Lakeena McGee. I am Sydney Brown. We have these last few minutes left for this first segment, Lakeena. Let's go to the hardwood and talk about these Chicago Bulls. We'll get to the rest of the NBA, the best and worst from the weekend, and we'll give you some of the key games for you to watch coming up for this upcoming week in our next segment. Lakeena, this past Saturday night, the Bulls got down again. Is this become a familiar script? They got down early. They fought back, did a couple of stupid things, i.e. Denzel Valentine's air ball. They did a couple of stupid things, and they ended up losing the game by 5. And you go look back at the highlights, and you would say, if it only did this here, they did that, they made these free throws, they made a couple of shots, they did some things better. You go ahead. I got nothing.
Well, look. I mean, if they didn't have a terrible first quarter, I mean, they didn't have a horrible start, and
see, that's what I'm talking about.
I mean, and also too, if Denzel hadn't, Valentine hadn't tried to hit that 3-pointer from I guess from Palm Beach. I don't know what the heck he was doing. Shooting.
You're not Dan Marley. Stop it.
Yeah, no, come on. No, you're not. No, you're not. I wish his brother Drew would, offer him a coaching position over at Loyola. That's another story. But I mean, look. I thought that this was gonna. Look, I thought that this was gonna be a blowout. Honestly, I did not think that.
Me too.
Look, especially when you didn't have Denzel. I mean, Zach Levine. You didn't have him. So I honestly didn't think that that they were gonna I thought they were gonna get blown up by 20 points. I mean, I already my mind was already set for us to talk about. Oh well, okay, yeah, they didn't have Zach, but they had Jimmy and Bam and Cam Robinson and all that stuff. But look, but they didn't. I mean, look, they could have ran away, crawl into a hole and hid after being down by 18. But they didn't. They fought back. They came back. We'll see. We'll talk about that game on Monday, or next episode. They have that little 2-gamer. But look, I think they looked pretty good. Look, Vucevic looked really good. I mean, Kobe White's actually has kind of played at another level since Zach's absence.
Yes.
And and look, Tice. Like I said, he's gonna. I hope they keep him because he's definitely gonna be a cult figure here in Chicago. Brown Jr. looked really good. He kind of was banged up a little bit, but he played well. I mean, Thad Young, you don't know what you're gonna get with him, with that. But But look, he had a nice effort, and I mean, look, I don't know what folks were expecting. I mean, look, Duncan Robinson at 23 to lead the way for the Heat, and also to, like I said, Jimmy Butler, made some big, shots, and Bam made some key shots too. So I don't know what I don't know what people were expecting, because I'm hearing like from some people were like, well, I thought they were going to be a top 6 seed. I'm like, wait, do y'all watch basketball? Like, what NBA are you watching? Like, do y'all watch the NBA, or do you look like this roster is not a top 6 roster in the Eastern Conference? Well, like I said, we'll talk more. Like I said, we'll talk more about the rest of the NBA in a little bit in our next segment. But really, I find it hilarious. But look, I mean, again, we'll talk more in depth with the rest of the NBA. But I wasn't expecting much for this. I thought I was gonna freak out, but look, they lost by 5 on Saturday. Yay! Whatever. Go ahead.
Yeah, and check this out, Lakeena. In the third quarter, you scored 22 points, and you held Miami to 19.
Exactly.
So that's a sign.
Yay!
After having a terrible fourth quarter when you scored only 18 points.
That's progress. That's progress.
But wait, there's more.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, excuse me for using this term. I'm using it very loosely in an entertainment sense on this show. Lauri Markkanen, my punching bag, in 21 minutes of action, 3 of 6 from the field. That's including 3 of 5 from three-point land. Guess how many points he scored, kids? A total of 9. And his plus-minus rating was a +10. How the hell did that happen? I don't know. And Denzel Valentine, you just mentioned, Lakeena, in 18 minutes of action, including the air ball in the fourth quarter, he scored a total of 9. And he also shot 3 of 5 from downtown. Sort this mess out for me. I don't know what else to say about that game.
I mean, look. I mean, it was one of those weird games. Okay, look. Like I don't think anybody expected to. No one really expected to win. It would have been a nice surprise had they won. I guess, of course, they were able to beat. They beat Boston without Levine, but But again, I mean, look. I'm not look. I was expecting this to be like a 20-25 point blowout. So the fact that they were able to catch up, and it wasn't for some bad, ill-conceived shots and some, a bad first quarter. I mean, look, who knows? They probably would have won that game. But again, I know who this team is. We'll see what happens when Zach is able to come back. Hopefully sooner rather than later. The early word is that perhaps maybe early next week about this time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not. I don't know what people were expecting. I've heard some people, like I said, some people say they're going to be to finish top 4 or top 6. Like what? Where? Who? Who are some of y'all even? Some of y'all even watch the NBA or something? I think some of y'all don't, because I don't know. But go ahead, Sid.
Here's the thing, and let's go to the front office. If you're Arturas Kanischewicz and GM Mark Eversley, yes, Lauri Markkanen is a restricted free agent this summer. You got to find the best deal for him, for Lauri Markkanen. You gotta hope that some team will be real stupid to give him some semi-ridiculous offer, because all the other teams around the league are watching what we're watching. Okay, you will hope some team will try to bite the Bulls and almost what Sacramento almost did to Zach LaVine a few years ago before Garpax matched. It turned out to be one of the smarter moves that they did in their history here in Chicago. But you got to hope that some team will overvalue Lauri just a little bit so they could take him off your hands. Because I don't see, as I said before, I don't see Lauri Markkanen here long term. I know there's some stories that go around that he. Yeah, that he's no pun intended when I say this, that it is in his head, or he doesn't have that alpha dog in him. Okay, I know everybody can't be that alpha man. Okay, but you got to play your role. But to be honest with you, Lakeena, Lauri's better than this, but he just hasn't shown it consistently throughout his Bulls career. But I'm just focusing on this season. Remember, he got hurt early on, Lakeena. When he came back, he was scoring 25 points a game, 30. He had a 30-point game here and there. We were like, okay, this is the Laurie that we expected to see. Then he got hurt again when he came back, and you get this for your return. It's just unacceptable.
And I think you have to think that it's in his head. It has to be that, that he thinks that he probably will not be back here next year. But again, you should be able to showcase yourself that if you want that big contract, this is what you got to do. And especially if you're trying to get that big payday. I mean, you better hope that AK is able to do his best, salesman's job. I mean, look, there's going to be a team that's going to fight. There's always going to be one team out there. Look, oh yeah, we'll give Lowry $100 million. Sure, why not? And see if
we're not going to. See ya.
Bye. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice rest of your career. Chapter 2, Lowry, go ahead. But yeah, I mean, look, let's hope that he can. Look, there's always a team out there that's going to be crazy enough to do that because there always is in the NBA. But
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, look, he's not going to be back next year. I'm not expecting him back. I don't think any of us are. So, look, if you can try to maybe get something from him, something for him, get a compensatory second rounder. Hey, cool. I'd be okay with that. Go for it. But he's not going to be here next year. I know that.
And also, too, the problems with this team is bigger than Lowry, but we talk about him because he was one of the stars that were drafted to hopefully to turn this team around. It just hasn't happened. And I know he was part of that Jimmy Butler trade a few years ago when he was selected along with Zach LaVine. Now, Zach LaVine has lived up to the end of his bargain, and I know he's up for an extension this summer. Hopefully, he'll sign him because if you're Zach LaVine, I want to stay here. I want to recruit guys. This management team, they sent a message at the trade deadline saying that we're going to be aggressive, trying to give you better players. And if you're LaVine, like, okay, this is a start of something. And maybe I could look at this long term and say I could still be the man, or if they pick a better player than myself or Vucevic, I can run with the squad. I could work with this, and we perhaps can consistently get into the playoffs and eventually get to the NBA Finals. But this is a start. If you're Zach LaVine, you're looking at Bulls management and say, what more can you do to help me be the best that I can be? I brought it this year. I'm a first-time All-Star. Bringing in Vucevic is nice. Well, what else do you have up your sleeve? This can't be it. Obviously, like we told you guys throughout the season, with this new management team, this is not it. There's some more house cleaning to do.
Well, I think, like we've been saying, I like the fact that they're not that Mark Eversley and George Karnishvili aren't talking to the media constantly.
Bad boys move in silence.
That's a good thing. I would rather them not say anything. I don't want to know what you're thinking. I don't know what you're thinking. Look, who knows? Maybe they have already had that discussion already. Maybe look, I know some people said, well, Zach's an LA guy. Maybe they'll try to test the waters out over there. Either the Clippers or the Lakers. I mean, he can. I mean, but again, I'm sure they're going to do their best, their sales pitch and look, we got you, Vucevic. You're able to, what can I do? What are you guys? What can I do to help recruit more guys? What can we do? Because I want to stay here. I want to win a championship here. I mean, I made a home here and such. And look, we don't know what's going on in Zach's mind. We don't. And we don't know what's going on in AK and Eversley's minds. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
I don't need to be inundated with it constantly of what they're. We're gonna get this guy, try to get this guy, try to get this guy, or we won't sign large offers. We're gonna try to move him and get a pick, compensatory pick, or hopefully that the Magic will get a top 4 because that's protected and that's our pick. We can get a Jalen Suggs or a Kate Cunningham. Look, that's fine. Go ahead. Look, do what you need to do. I don't need to know what's going on in your heads. You don't have to tell everybody what goes on in your heads all the time. Just do it if you can.
The rest of the schedule for the Bulls this week, of course, as Lakeena mentioned, they just wrapped up their 2-game series down there in Miami. We'll recap that in our next episode. Of course, tomorrow night, if you listen to us on our podcast tomorrow night will be Wednesday. They'll visit Madison Square Garden to take on Coach Tibbs. They call me Mr. Tibbs and the New York Knicks, who's been on the road. We'll talk about their game this past Saturday against Toronto in our next segment. After the Bulls play the Knicks in Madison Square Garden on Wednesday, Friday they'll come back home to take on the Milwaukee Bucks. And Saturday, they'll go down to the Dirty South, as the kids will say, to take on Atlanta. And next Monday, they'll come back home at the UC to take on the Philadelphia 76ers. Lakeena, they need Zach LaVine to have any chance to get into the play-in tournament. Maybe they'll surprise us with a win against the Knicks or against Milwaukee. I doubt it. But if they surprise us with a win against a better team, I'm all for it. But I had to go with you. I have nothing.
There's really, yeah. I mean, just to put a capper on this particular segment. I mean, look, if they end up beating the Knicks tomorrow, if they end up beating the Bucks on Friday, either one. I mean, they beat Boston. No one really saw that coming. So, look, we've seen weird things happen in the NBA this year. It's sort of like inconceived games and sort of like weird results. So, and especially in a season like this, I wouldn't be surprised if they win either one of these games. But look, I think if we saw that fight we saw from Miami, in Miami, I mean, look, they're gonna keep putting up that fight, and that's okay. As long as you're putting up that fight, and look, make yourself look good to potential free agents.
Yeah, that's all you have to do until the regular season concludes in a few weeks. Lakeena, let's refuel ourselves and take this 20-second timeout. On the flip side, we'll review the best and worst of the NBA from the weekend. We'll give you some of the key games to watch this upcoming week. We'll get into a little bit of the NFL draft. A former Chicago Bear is fighting for his life as we speak. And we'll have a couple of other stories, and we'll have a lot more fun as well. Along with Lakeena McGee, which is she, I am Sid Brown, which is me. You're listening to Second City Sports. Welcome back to the second half of Second City Sports Zoom Style.
Zoom Style.
Along with Miss Lakeena McGee, I am Sydney Brown. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, at SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow me at Keena McGee on the Twitter and at Keena_McGee on the IG.
And you can follow this podcast, Second City Sports. You can get a special preview right here on YouTube first every Monday and Friday on War Media. Once again, at WARR Media on YouTube. That's every Monday and Friday. Our podcast schedule has not changed. It's still every Tuesday and Saturday at War on Anchor. Once again, every Tuesday and Saturday for the podcast version at War on Anchor, which kicks you over to Spotify, iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Google Play, and the iHeartRadio app. In all podcast platforms, type in that search engine box, WARR on Anchor. And we're also on weareregalradio.com and on all social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We are at War Media. Once again, at WARR Media on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
Let's do some hockey, Lakeena. Andrew Shaw. Breaking news from Monday morning, which was yesterday. Andrew Shaw, the 10-year veteran of the National Hockey League and two-time Stanley Cup champion with the Chicago Blackhawks from 2013 and 2015, has called it a career at the age of 29. Lakeena, I remember this young man when he first came up during the latter stages of the 2011-2012 season. He scored a goal in his first career game in the NHL. It doesn't happen to too many players, of course. He has some memorable moments during those Stanley Cup runs in the mid-2010s. We'll get to those in just a second. He was a hard-nosed player. I know listening to one of the local radio stations here in town, Chicago, which you're a broadcaster from. I know many people compared him to A.J. Brzezinski, former White Sox player, now broadcaster, Dennis Rodman, and other players that they weren't the superstars, but they were the tangible players that you needed. You loved them if they were your teammate, but you hated them if you played against them. And I think that was kind of a fair assessment for Andrew Shaw. He was this Blackhawks version of Adam Burge. If you guys remember Adam Burge, he was on that 2010 Stanley Cup team. He wore jersey number 37. He was that fourth liner guy. He didn't score a lot of goals, but he provided a lot of physicality, a lot of attitude, and that's what Andrew Shaw did during those two Stanley Cup championships with the Blackhawks in 2013 and 2015. He added some flair as well. He had a couple of hiccups, but for the most part, he did what he had to do. You could play him with Kane and Taves, but he wasn't that type of player. He was a third liner. He was a fourth liner, and he did his job ever since he was acquired before the start of last season. 2 years in a row, his season has ended in concussions. And this is the main reason why he retired. So Andrew Shaw, salute to you, my man, for 10 great years in the NHL. I know you played a couple years with the Montreal Canadiens when he was traded away from here a couple years ago. So 2 Stanley Cups. He's always going to be a fan favorite amongst Blackhawk Nation. I tweeted that out yesterday. So Andrew Shaw, he will be missed. But, this is what happens when, especially in the game of hockey. We talked about this before, Lakeena. You can't. All athletes have their hardships. Okay, I don't care what sport that you play in, but I always find it amazing that hockey players and I know football players, we talk about concussions all the time, but hockey players, they go through a lot just to play one game, and with the physicality that is expected in hockey, with all the equipment that they wear too. Remember, folks, they average player's speed is faster than a car going down a side street. Okay, so with the speed and agility, with the equipment and the physicality of the game, it takes a lot for these guys, along with the other parts of the training. Of course, it takes a lot for these guys just to get ready just to play one game. Imagine doing that for 82 games, preseason, playoff runs like the Hawks had when Andrew Shaw was here, doing those same cup runs back in the last decade. So, and it takes a lot on you. And hockey is a physical game, and those athletes really earn their paychecks, and it takes a lot. A lot of sacrifice and a lot of hard work just to get to where those hockey players are. I remember I said this before when Corey Crawford retired. Now retired hockey announcer Doc Emmerich said this once when the Blackhawks won the Cup in 2010, and former New Jersey Devil John Madden was on the team. And of course, Doc Emmerich also did the Devils games as well. And he said this, and I quote, referring to John Madden: "After winning the Stanley Cup, every morning I woke up and a body part hurt somewhere. A body part was aching on my body." I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but it wasn't until the middle of July that I woke up and my body didn't hurt. It didn't hurt somewhere.
Look,
That's what these hockey players go through just to play one game.
yeah,
Imagine going through that for a whole year.
Yeah, I think that people forget that how physical the sport is. People forget how how draining it could be, how much you're all bruised up afterwards. Look at Eric Lindros, who probably could have been even a better player than what he was, but
Concussions got him.
So this is the case there also too with Andrew Shaw. And look, he's that grit. He was known for his grit. He was known for that tenacity. And look, I'm gonna miss him very much. He's only 29 too. The fact that he's had unfortunately so many concussions and he didn't really have a choice but to retire. He said, "Look, I'm not gonna try to come back. I'm gonna spend some time with his wife and his kids." And look, he should be commended for that. And look, he was a big part of those last 2 Stanley Cups in 2013 and 2015. He was, and I don't think that he gets his due like some of the other players do for in those particular Stanley Cup teams. He was sort of like that during that comeback against Boston. That look, he was the guy that kind of led the charge in that comeback when they ended up clinching the cup when they were down. So I think that he needs to get celebrated. And look, I didn't hate Andrew Shaw when I found out we were getting him, because that's kind of where I put him, like Dennis Rodman, AJ Brzezinski, because you hate those guys, you hate until they play on your team, you're willing to embrace them. Andrew Shaw is sort of like that same guy, even though he wasn't he's not a big of a jerk or anything like that. So he's actually a really nice guy, but he's showed that grit, he showed the determination. And look, I think he said health-wise, he tweeted out a really great video thanking the fans of Chicago. I implore everyone to check out check out his social media accounts. But look, he's the guy that's going to be missed, and look, you can kind of feel that when he's not there, that one of those few years he was in Montreal, you kind of felt that was missing from that team. So that grit, that's nasty, that leadership. So we'll see what he does. I mean, we'll see if he ends up doing television and things to that effect. But quiet there, quiet you. But this is I congrats him on a great career, and and look, I think that this is a guy that should be celebrated because he was a big part of those last 2 Stanley Cup teams. I think people need to remember that. So I wish him nothing but the best and also not only the rest of his career, but also good health too, because I'm sure having multiple concussions, whatever the sport, can be very damaging long term. So he did the right thing by retiring.
Yeah, we forget that these athletes are human too, and once they get behind closed doors, they deal with the same stuff that you and I and those of you that are listening and watching us deal with as well. So, like you said, Lakeena, best wishes to Andrew Shaw on a great career and great health for the rest of his life. I know he has a young family now, so I know he's going to be concentrating on that. Whatever he wants to do, whether it's TV or radio work or just do something else away from hockey, he'll be able to do it now. Before we move on, just a couple of great moments that stick out to me. In this moment, I tweeted out on Twitter yesterday that soccer headbutt soccer goal in that middle of the game 2 against Anaheim in the Western Conference Finals in game 2 back in 2015. We've never seen that before. Of course, it was illegal then. It's still illegal now. But I remember watching that live. I was like, did I see what I thought I just saw?
He was using his head. He was using his head. He was using his head.
Right. I know the Chicago Fire, the soccer team, sent him a vertical jersey, which that was awesome. Of course, you mentioned the Boston series. Game 6, he got hit in the face with the puck. Of course, he had to go get stitched up. But after the Hawks stole Game 6 and won it all back in 13, you can see blood dripping from down his face. I know he became a cult figure for Blackhawks fans. And then of course, Game 1 of that series before Dave Bolin scored that game-winning goal in that triple overtime classic at the UC against Boston. Andrew Shaw was the last guy to touch the puck. He got an assist on that Dave Bolin goal. So Andrew Shaw was a difference maker. Of course, like you said, Kane, Taves, Holsa, Seabrook, who just recently retired, and Crawford, they get all the headlines. But you need those guys that does the dirty work, and Andrew Shaw did that while he was here in Chicago. So congrats to you, Mr. Shaw, on a great career. Salute.
Yeah, and like you said, Sid, I mean, look, whatever he decides to do. Does he decide to, like you said, decides to coach, or decides to do media, or just decides to spend time with his family, or a new business venture? So, you tip your caps and such to him, and hopefully, an ambassadorship for the Blackhawks, definitely deserving. So, congrats on a great career, Mr. Shaw. We salute you.
Yes. Let's move on to the NBA. Lakeena, back to basketball, the best and worst from the weekend. I'll start off a couple of games that stuck out to me from the weekend. We'll start off with Sunday's action. Portland Trail Blazers, as of this recording, they are currently on a 5-game losing streak. They lost to the Grizzlies at home on this past Sunday, 120-113. Damian Lillard did not have a good game. He only scored 23 points, but John Morant had a big game for the Grizzlies, as the Grizzlies are still in that fight for that to participate in that play-in tournament. John Morant had 28 points and 8 rebounds. And, of course, the game of the day on ESPN was the Brooklyn Nets hosting the Phoenix Suns. Kevin Durant looked great with 33 points. The Nets had a big second half in that comeback victory over the Suns, 128-119. Kyrie Irving also had a big game with 34 points and 12 assists. Devin Booker led the Suns with 36 points. Lakeena, if you're Brooklyn, hopefully Kevin Durant stays healthy. I know James Harden was missing in action again due to injury. Hopefully he'll be back soon so we get a true evaluation of this Nets team. But Kevin Durant looked well on Sunday. Kyrie Irving did his thing. Phoenix had control of that game in their first half, but Brooklyn had a better second half.
Yeah, I mean, look, they looked really good. Brooklyn did, and like you said, Sid, I'm like, oh, look, we can't really make any conclusions because we haven't seen this team play at full strength yet. So, look, hopefully Harden will be back soon. I mean, look, hopefully Durant can stay healthy. That's been sort of the problem the last couple of years with him because he hasn't been able to stay healthy. So
Mhm.
I'm looking forward to see what happens once they are back in full strength, and hopefully we can get them at full strength, so that way we can have a sort of
Mhm.
a proper evaluation of this team. I can't really make any about we can't really make any predictions right now. So I'm like, look, the Nets look good, okay, but yeah, let's see how they do once they're at full strength.
Back to Sunday's action. Of course, Milwaukee on Saturday, they swept their two-game series over the Philadelphia 76ers in blowout fashion. But the next night in Atlanta, this past Sunday, they lost to the Hawks 111 to 104. Bogdan Bojanovic scored 32 points for Atlanta. Giannis Antetokounmpo scored 31 for Milwaukee and grabbed 14 rebounds. Lakina, couple of things. Atlanta, as we mentioned before, they are playing much better under new head coach Nate McMillan. Trae Young is still out with that ankle injury, which he suffered last week. On the flip side, Milwaukee, I told you I'm not a believer in them. I like Giannis personally, but I don't like their head coach. I know where this script is going as of right now. They're going to be embarrassed in the playoffs.
You've already made that. You already made that
Yeah,
proclamation,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
You already made that official proclamation, right? I mean, you're already
yeah.
like Sidney Brown as 1:27 Central Time, Chicago time, as we're recording this on April 26th, said he thinks that the Bucks are gonna make fools of themselves in the playoffs. Okay, so
Yep.
all right. Look, it's all about matchups, right? Once everything, and once the play in, tournaments or whatever, play, and once everything, the seeds are matched up. So we'll see. I mean, look, I haven't seen anything. Look, I think Brooklyn's a favorite in that Eastern Conference, and Philly too. And look, Milwaukee. Look, if they can pull off, I don't want to say upset, but if they end up, in the Eastern Conference Finals, I don't think no one should be shocked. But again, I mean, I'm not. Like I've been saying, I'm not sold on Milwaukee just yet. I mean, I think that this just shows you why we're not sold on on them. But look, I think it was a nice win for Atlanta. I mean, Atlanta's sort of trying to kind of like make it interesting in that play in. So we'll see what they can do. For me, I think the one thing that kind of impressed for me is what Steph Curry is doing. I mean, as of this recording, he's made 85 3-pointers. That's the most in a month for anybody. I don't think that should he be in discussion for MVP. People say, "Oh, he's in the top 3 right now." I don't think so. I don't think so. I mean, look, one good month doesn't make an MVP. Look, is he going to put himself in the conversation? Yeah, it's going to be like in the top 5 or 6. Fine. But again, you gotta give your props to him what he's doing at 33. I mean, he should definitely get his due for that. But look, I mean, Brooklyn, that was a very impressive win against the Suns. I mean, Kyrie had 34. I think I don't know if this is necessarily a measuring stick of how the Suns look against sort of the top teams, overall in the league. But okay, it was a solid performance by the Nets. I mean, we'll see. Like I said, you can't really make a synopsis here because they're not at full strength. So, but look, they looked really good against a very good Suns team. And look, if you're a Nets fan, you gotta be feeling pretty good about your team right now.
Yeah, a couple of the teams from the weekend going to reviewing Saturday's action. Of course, the Knicks defeated the Toronto Raptors 120 to 103. Julius Randle, who I think has a better chance of I'm not winning MVP, but he's ahead of Steph Curry as far as getting MVP votes are concerned. He scored 31 points, grabbed 10 rebounds, and the Dallas Mavericks they sweep their two-game series at home against the Los Angeles Lakers. They defeated LA on Saturday 108 to 93. Dwight Powell, who was lost due to leg injury last year, he came up big with 25 points, 9 rebounds, and an assist. Luka Doncic had a big game as well. Kristaps Porzingis had a good first half, but he went out of the game early in the third quarter with a sprained ankle, I believe. So hopefully he stays healthy. As I said before, if he stays healthy, the rest of that Mavericks team is good. Because we saw what happened last year. Luka Doncic had a ankle injury and damn near carried them past the first round against the Clippers. So Porzingis must stay healthy. If he does, the rest of that team is solid, and they've been playing very well. They're trying to pull ahead away from Portland and Memphis to avoid that play-in tournament, and so they're looking good right now.
Yeah, I mean, look, I mean, Going on the flip side with the Lakers, I mean, Anthony Davis looked really good. He looked much better and wasn't as much as a minutes restriction, but he has not at full game strength yet.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I mean, this is something that if you're a Lakers fan, you'll be feeling pretty good about your team. Because I'm thinking that once we'll see how when LeBron's able to kind of get cleared for practice and such. But Andre Drummond only had 6 points. You got to do better than that because you're still going to have to help kind of hold down the fort until LeBron comes back. I mean, look, McElmore had 20 points, leading the way for the Lakers. But again, Harold didn't play because he was banged up, and Gasol's been non-productive. Horton Tucker, 6 points, but again, that's not going to be nowhere near enough. They're going to need contributions for some of your other guys. Yes, AD's back, and yes, he played a little bit more. He's still going to kind of on a minutes restriction. He's still going to be a couple of games before he's able to play a full game. So you guys need to step it up. Look, you made it respectable against the Mavericks, but you're kind of like teetering in that play-in, and I'm sure the Lakers don't want that. So you better, see if you can kind of finish strong and finish near that top 4 or 5 so you can avoid those play-ins. But look, Dallas, like I said, I wasn't worried about Dallas. I know earlier in the year people were freaking out about Dallas, asking for Rick Carlisle's job. But look, once they started getting healthy and once, Porzingis, started scoring consistently and of course, Luka's doing what he's doing. I mean, look, I think could they make inroads in the playoffs? Could they give the top teams in the West fits? Oh, sure they can. But again, I think I want to see how the matchups are before I make any type of predictions in that front. And so we still got time to do it.
You're listening to Second City Sports along with Lakeena McGee, which is she. I am Sidney Brown. Damn it, that's me. As we talk about the National Basketball Association. Lakeena, let's start off with tonight's games, which is Tuesday for the NBA. We'll give you some of the key games to pay attention to, keep your eyes on. NBA TV will have a doubleheader tonight starting at 6 o'clock. The Milwaukee Bucks will travel to Charlotte to take on the Hornets. Big game for both teams. Is a bigger game for Charlotte. Charlotte had a big win on Sunday in front of a national audience against the Boston Celtics. Let's see if they can keep their playoff hopes alive against Milwaukee. And, of course, TNT will get the second game at 8:30 p.m. Central Standard Time as the Dallas Mavericks will travel to the Bay Area to face Steph Curry and the Golden State Warriors.
Luka versus Steph, that should be a fun one. That should be like first to 130, maybe, I guess. I don't know. But look, this is definitely a big game for playoff positioning purposes. Golden State still trying to kind of like sneak into that, that outside of that, play in for the Mavs too. So this should be that should be a fun one, a very entertaining one, on, tonight, late tonight. So guys, please check that out. Going to the Wednesday's games, you got the Lakers and the suddenly shrinking Wizards. They've won 8 in a row as of this recording. Russell Westbrook, I mean, is still breaking records, with triple doubles and double doubles and, hopeful this will be an interesting one too, because the Wizards are like a game and a half ahead of the Bulls as of this recording for that last play-in spot. I have to say it. I have to. It's
yeah.
It wouldn't be right if I didn't. But this should be always interesting when these two play each other. Especially you got AD versus Russ. That should be a fun one.
At 6 p.m., we'll have the Atlanta Hawks traveling to Philadelphia to take on the Sixers. The Sixers scuffled over the weekend at Milwaukee. Let's see if they can rebound against a lesser opponent in Atlanta, even though Atlanta has played better as of late. At 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, it's the Charlotte Hornets going to the Northeast to take on the Boston Celtics in their rematch from last Sunday where Boston got embarrassed on the road. Let's see if they could turn it around at home. Of course, at the same time, we'll have the Bulls and the Knicks. At 7 o'clock, shout out to our good friend Alana Tech Hour. Her Miami Heat will host the San Antonio Spurs. They are currently 1 game over 500. You cannot count these guys out just yet.
No, you never look. Any great Popovich coach team, you never count out, right? I mean, you'd be crazy and insane if you did. So that should be a lot of fun. And look, Portland versus Memphis. I mean, Portland needs this
rematch from Sunday.
Yeah, so they need this. Portland lost that first game of that 2-gamer. And they need this desperately to avoid. They're in the 7th spot right now as of this recording. They've lost 5 in a row. Hopefully they can break that streak because they need it. They want to avoid that play-in. So We'll see Dame versus Ja Morant. That should be a fun one. I'm surprised that was not televised, but it is what it is. New Orleans.
You can watch it via our computers.
Well, of course. Well, here another game you can watch at that same time at 8:00 via our computers or whatever devices you like to watch stuff. Smartphones, tablets, whatever. New Orleans and Denver. Jokic versus Zion. That should be a fun one too. Both teams are it's going to be, way out of the question for the Pelicans to win it. But if you're, this should be a very interesting game because I think that Denver needs this sort of like for confidence. They've been playing very well since Murray's injury. They're at number 4 right now as of this recording. We'll see if they can keep it up, but that should be a lot of fun because New Orleans, it's very small, but they're trying, everything they can to kind of stay right there. But Golden State's been playing very well lately, so. So if they could collapse by them, perhaps maybe try to get into that playoff, play-in playoff.
Yeah, and the second half of that ESPN doubleheader from Wednesday will take place at 9 p.m. It's the LA Clippers traveling to Phoenix to take on the Suns. Hopefully Kawhi Leonard will be back for that game. Paul George has been doing his thing all year as we haven't heard or seen any drama from that Clippers squad. Of course, Phoenix, they finished with a 500 record on the East Coast road trip. Let's see if they can rebound at home to claim that top spot in the Western Conference.
Also, too, Boogie's has Clippers have signed Boogie for the rest of the season. He's actually been pretty productive for them. So, we'll see what we can do over there, and hopefully he can contribute more. Also, to finish up that slate of games for tomorrow night, Utah versus Sacramento. Look, the Kings, have been given teams fits, so hopefully Utah, congrats to them for being the first team to clinch a playoff spot. But, don't take the Kings lightly.
No, you cannot take that young team lightly. Let's move over to Thursday. No TNT games are scheduled for Thursday, but one game will be nationally televised, and that's on NBA TV at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. It's Kevin Durant's Brooklyn Nets traveling to Indiana to face Malcolm Brogdon's Pacers.
They're still, they're kind of like meandering in that nice spot, in the East for that, that play-in playoff, spot. And if anything, this is sort of like a positioning purposes, I think, with this game, I believe, Brooklyn, you still want to be able to kind of win and get try to get that 1 seed. And if you're Indiana, you're trying to get out of that, stay in that play-in, sort of section. So, a big one there for positioning, if nothing else. The 8:00 game, you can watch this via your device. You got Toronto and Denver. Toronto's still, fighting to stay in that, in that play-in seed in the East. For Denver, you're trying to kind of stay out of that play-in, section in the West. So that should be a fun one.
Yep, and let's wrap it up with Friday's action. Of course, at 6:00 p.m. Central Standard Time, the Atlanta Hawks will wrap up their 2-game series on the road against the Philadelphia 76ers. At 6:30 p.m., we'll have the San Antonio Spurs traveling to Boston to take on the Celtics. NBA TV will have a doubleheader on Friday. At 7 o'clock, we'll have Portland traveling to Brooklyn to take on the Nets. This should be a fun one to watch. And it's a big game for both teams, but it's bigger for Portland. As we mentioned, they've been struggling lately.
And, of course, we talked about it earlier in Milwaukee and Chicago. Look, you never know. You never know. Maybe they might. Look, like I said before, we've seen some strange things happen in the NBA so far this year, Sid. So don't be surprised if the Bulls somehow pull off the upset. I'm not saying they're going to, but don't be surprised.
Can we send a note to their dumb head coach and to rest their players? If any the perfect time to do that, it'll be done.
Sit down, Giannis. Sit Giannis for this game. Sit him for this game. Out west, though, this should be a fun one. You got Utah and Phoenix. Kind of surprised that's not getting the nationally televised treatment, but that should be a fun one too. Some people say it could be as preview of the Western Conference Finals. Some other teams may have something to say about that, but it should be a fun one out in Phoenix. And also, to the capper on NBA TV, you got the Lakers hosting the Kings. So, hopefully, if you're the Lakers, you don't want to be anywhere near that play-in. So, you better try to win as many as you can until LeBron comes back.
Yep. So, there's the week ahead in the National Basketball Association. You're listening to Second City Sports along with Lakeena McGee. I am Sidney Brown. Let's transition over to football. Lakeena, we know the draft is coming up. The first round will be on Thursday. The second round will be on Friday. Of course, rounds 3 through 7 will take place in Cleveland, Ohio, Saturday and Sunday, rounds 3 through 7. But before we get to our quick nuggets on the NFL draft, we want to take this time to send our best wishes to Steve McMichael, the former NFL defensive lineman, former Chicago Bear, one-time Green Bay Packer. He's fighting for his life as we speak. He has ALS. He announced it in January. Jared Payton, his late father, Walter Payton, was a teammate of Steve McMichael, of course. Now Jared Payton is his leading sports anchor along with Dan Roan at WGN TV in Chicago. He had an exclusive interview with Mr. McMichael this past weekend. If you guys didn't check it out, if you missed it, you can catch it on the WGNTV.com, and you can go to WGN TV on YouTube. But they have the interview up right there in its entirety. Lakeena, we wish Steve McMichael the best as he's fighting for his life. And I noticed during that interview, I know some Bear fans may want to, I'm sure they wanted to turn their head after what Steve McMichael said about George McCaskey. Of course, we all know about the lawsuit that the former players did with the NFL with the concussions and things along that line a few years ago, and they were promised a certain amount of money. Some older players have gotten them, while many other older players have not received their money. But Steve McMichael revealed in an interview that the McCaskies helped him out with a special wheelchair as he's fighting ALS. And he said, if anything else, he wants Bears fans to remember about the McCaskies, they did something great for me. And I thought it was very cool to share that story. Yes, we as fans, we may have issues with how the McCaskies run the football side of things, but business-wise and helping out former players, as Steve McMichael revealed in that interview, the McCaskies helped him out. And you can't help but give the McCaskies 2 thumbs up right there.
Yeah, and look, everybody has their struggles about that family, but look, they care about their former players and current their former players, especially with those 80s Bears teams that was so successful, went to the playoffs for many years in the 80s, and I think, look, they helped out with Refrigerator Perry as he's going through his perspective health issues, and some of the other players as well. So I'm not really surprised. Look, Mongo, as we call him here, the cult figure, here in Chicago, not only with his production on the field, how his personality, his jovialness off the field. We see him do media these last, 20, 25 years since he retired. I mean, he's become a cult figure here in Chicago, and it was tough to read the news and to read the interviews. And if you saw the video, look, even I told my mom about it. She said she's really sorry because, look, my mom's not a big sports fan, but she could tell you pretty much every player on the 85 Super Bowl winning 85 Bears team. That's just how great that team was. And you hope nothing but the best for him. But look, we've known folks who have suffered from that disease. It's just horrible, and it's going to be hard to see Mongo, not being able to talk or not being able to walk, and it's going to be hard to see. That's just the realities of it with ALS, unfortunately. But I'm wishing him nothing but the best. Team Mongo, they got a website, and also too, they got a GoFundMe. His wife and
yes,
just have a GoFundMe page. So Team Mongo, check it out if you can help. If you just hashtag Team Mongo, that's money that goes to that organization. So if you can't help, any way you can, please do. And hopefully, we're saying our prayers for you, Mongo, and just hope that there's really nothing else you can say about it. Just just hope for the expect the worst, but hope for the best for him, and just help out if you can.
Yeah, just real quick before we move on to the draft. I remember watching Steve McMichael as a kid. Now former sports anchor Mark Giangrego. I don't know if you remember, but excuse me, sports highlight shows, wrap-up shows on Sunday nights started to become popular in this town and now all over the nation. I remember when Old Sports Sunday on Channel 5 back in the day, it was the NBC affiliate here in Chicago. Mark Giangrego used to bring in Steve McMichael during the football season, and Steve McMichael did some crazy stuff. I'm sure there's some old footage out there somewhere on YouTube. If it is, please let me know. I'll go look for it, and I'm sure I'll tweet some of those clips there. But I remember Steve McMichael, like you said, he was a crazy guy. He was a open book. Had a fun personality. I remember when the NFL on Fox got started back in '94. I remember, I think the next year, '95, I believe in '96 as well. Corey McFerrin, who's still now a news anchor here in Chicago on Fox 32, when he did the Bears back in the '90s and early 2000s. Steve McMichael was his analyst, and Steve McMichael kept it real, as we said in community. He kept it real. He was very honest, and that's what we like about our analysts, especially here in Chicago. You can't BS us. We all know that you have a job to do, but you got to be honest in your analysis and tell us what's going on. And Steve McMichael did that for a couple years on Fox 32 here in Chicago locally. I wish he was there nationally. Him and Terry Bradshaw would have went at it back in the day, but he did that for a couple years. Up until a couple of years ago, he was doing pre and post game for ESPN 1000 with Fred Huebner and Jeff Dickerson until the last couple of years. Now we know why he wasn't doing it, because he was starting to get sick. But Steve McMichael, he was accessible to the fans. The fans loved him. He loved the fans back. And so, like you said, we wish the best for him. And this is not only going to help him, but hopefully with his what he's battling right now is going to bring awareness not only to that disease, but help other people as well who are going through it.
Absolutely. This is Second City Sports Law with Cindy Brown. I'm Lakeena McGee. With the draft just a few days away, Sid. The Bears. Look, we've been hearing all types of stuff about the Bears. I don't know what else you can say at this point. I mean, we've heard some people say we've heard some say they may trade up to get maybe Trey Lance, or some people are now even saying Justin Fields might be on the table for them, or some say that they may trade and then it move back. I personally don't know, and I don't think they do, but I'm going to let you take this one, Sid.
Quickly, because I'll be honest with you, I don't feel like talking about the Bears. I know we'll give you guys the full breakdown of their pick up in our next episode, wherever they do with it, whether they select whoever they select with that 20th pick, or if they trade up or trade down, whoever they select on Thursday. Hopefully everything stays intact. We'll give you our analysis on our next episode coming up this weekend. But I'm not that excited, Lakeena, because of all the other foolishness that's been going on with that organization, not just with the Ryan Pace regime, but this has been the Bears' history. Can you get the franchise quarterback right? And now with other needs that is needed for this team, drafting a quarterback, which is they so desperately need. I don't know if the franchise quarterback for them is in this draft. I know rumor has it that it's supposed to be a better quarterback class next year. If that's the case, then the Bears should be in that sweepstakes as well. But I know as of right now, they're picking at number 20 in the first round. They need a left tackle, which I think they'll go for, because like I said before, I still believe that Andy Dalton will be your starting quarterback come week 1 in September, okay? They're not getting Russell Wilson. That ship is sailed, okay? They're not getting anybody else that's coming off the free agent market. It's not going to help this team. Their free agent picker was Andy Dalton, and he's going to be a starting quarterback, okay? I know we talked about this in our last episode, Lakeena, that they may select a defensive back to replace Kyle Fuller. You could get that in the later rounds, okay? Or you may just go with the best available player on the board. If it was up to me, you'd select the offensive tackle. Andy Dalton, he wasn't a bad pickup on paper. I'm using air quotes for those of you that are just listening. But we all know you have to have some mobility in today's game. Andy Dalton hasn't had that throughout his career. He's not going to have it now. The only thing that's going to be mobile about him is running away from 300-pound linemen trying to avoid a sack, okay? That's why I say at number 20, you need an offensive tackle, preferably a left tackle. That's what they should do. Will they do that? Your guess is as good as mine.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's going to be interesting. We'll see what the Bears do. I think, like I said, I don't think they know at this point. So, look, if
they should know. You had 4 months.
Look,
okay.
I mean, look, if they get a left tackle, gay. If they get, some people were saying they should get a wide receiver. Like, go, really? You're good? Oh, okay. Most of those guys will not be there by the time you get to unless you're going to trade up. I don't know what else to tell you. They could go quarterback and perhaps maybe try to trade up, but they have nothing. So if I were them, either stay or get that left tackle, or maybe trade back and try to get more picks. So I don't think they know what they're doing at this point. And look, as far as nationally, I mean, look, until I hear Raj Goodell say that the 49ers are going to draft either Mac Jones or Trey Lance, I'm still going to say they're going to pick Justin Fields. I know people are predicting him to Fields to fall to, I guess, with the Falcons or maybe the Patriots. But, I don't believe that until I hear Goodell say somebody else's name for the 49ers, I'm not going to believe that for 1 second. I think it's a smoke screen. You don't trade, up to get, no disrespect to him, but you don't trade up to get Matt Jones or Trey Lance. You don't do that. So, we'll see what the 49ers do. We'll see what some of the other players, that we mentioned on Friday. Make sure to check out the podcast. I'm just looking forward to seeing, no more of these mock drafts. I know it's to keep us entertained, but at this point, it's annoying. It's annoying at this point.
Yeah. Shout out to our good friend Jason Pfeiffer as well. He said it along with you over the past few years on this show. It's Lions season.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, definitely Lions.
I just can't wait till Thursday night, when all this, like you said, is coming to an end. And if you're a Bears fan, it may be a bigger crap show than what's going on nationally. So I'll be relieved as a fan when all this is over, okay? And one quick note on the NFL before we close up shop. The schedule release date will be on May 12th. The schedules for every team, all 32 teams will be announced on May the 12th. So we'll have a couple weeks to talk about that before that's released.
Oh, yeah. So that's always fun, right? The schedule release date. That's becoming like a big, must-see TV. So should be a lot of fun. Should be a lot of fun in, excuse me. The schedule release is always a fun time. Everybody, making predictions and stuff, even though nothing's official, with the, the rosters and stuff. So I just find it fascinating, when I see tweets from people, we're going to go 8 and 9 now with the 17 game schedule now. So I'm going to find those even more fascinating. It's always a fun time there in that sense.
All right. You're listening to Second City Sports along with Lakeena McGee. I am Sydney Brown as we wrap up the show for this week. We'll have our next episode obviously coming up on the weekend. For those of you on listening on the podcast, it'll be on Saturday for the weekend edition of Second City Sports. Lakeena, let's go back to hockey. As we had some breaking news coming in early Monday afternoon. As we reported before last month, ESPN and the NHL will be remarried coming up next fall. But NBC, which we all thought they were going to get this the secondary package here in the U.S., that's not going to be the case. According to our good friends, this comes from lastwordonsports.com. Actually, we'll read a tweet first from Elliot Freeman. He's the analyst for Hockey Night in Canada for Rogers Sportsnet. The NHL will have a board of governors meeting to update on the upcoming U.S. TV picture for the next Stanley Cup series will be on ESPN3 on Turner Sports. That was Elliot Freeman's tweet from yesterday. Now, from our friends at Last Word on Sports, TNT and Turner Sports have acquired the second NHL TV deal and will air games along with ESPN. NBC will not carry any games for the first time since since the NHL resumed their season back in 05-06. Of course, remember the 05 season, it was due to a lockout. They missed the entire season. It's been quite a long time since ESPN had the rights to NHL games. One would have to look all the way back to 2004 to find an NHL game on ESPN. In addition, TNT has never had the right to air an NHL game. Since ESPN and TNT are close partners, it will make sense for these two networks will join together to show hockey. As for the Stanley Cup Finals, it is possible they could be on CBS or a combination of the Turner networks. However, there's still a lot of uncertainty surrounding this, and more information will be released. The classics tune of NHL and NBC will certainly be missed, especially with Mike Doc Embrick's retirement at the end of last season. It feels though as hockey was shifted away from NBC. Moving forward, however, the new doors should open for the NHL to get more exposure and thus gain more viewers and more money. Especially with the pandemic hitting the league hard, more revenue should benefit all the teams in the league itself. It is possible in a few years that the salary cap is increased if the league makes enough money. On ESPN, hopefully the hockey league will find a home and in one of the top viewership spots. While it's unlikely to take over the NBA or the NFL, it is possible that it grows to a point where it becomes a consistent top performer for viewership for ESPN and Turner Sports. In addition to the NHL on TNT, they will also have the rights to the NBA, as they still do now. As previously mentioned, it's unlikely that the NHL will pass the NBA for viewers, but it will still be an incredible opportunity for the league's growth. That's what I took away from this, Lakeena, is that uh, Turner, they'll have more of the sports coverage besides the NBA and occasionally NASCAR and golf. I think this will help Turner. Of course, the NBA sells that network in terms of sports, but I find it hard to believe that now with NBC gone, there'll be less games for the over-the-air broadcast. Most of the games will be on cable now. I know there'll be a few games on ABC here and there throughout the season because at the same time, more coverage and more attention goes to the NBA during that time because they play during the same time in the sports calendar year. Of course, as we said before, when the NHL made their deal with ESPN, some of the games will be on ESPN Plus. So the NHL TV is gone. That app is gone. So, but as far as Turner is concerned, hopefully they'll have a good partnership with ESPN. I think it's going to help that network. Of course, like I said before, it's carried by the NBA in terms of sports, but it should be good. Will it outshine ESPN? Who knows? But the NHL, hopefully it'll do well on Turner. People can actually find TNT. It's a mainstay channel instead of NBCSN and all these. Remember the OLN network when they came back, which is now NBCSN until the end of the year. And, and remember Versus.
Oh gosh.
Of course, now
yes.
NBCSN, which will be, like I said, defunct at the end of the year. So it looks like the NHL actually did some good this time, putting it on a channel which everybody can find.
Well, here's the thing with CBS. You mentioned that CBS has no interest in the NHL, so they weren't interested. So the Turner's kind of going all in for themselves on this. Also, too, there was some interest from Fox, but it was only at a fixed price. So they didn't really want it. So, but also too, I think that some of these games are also going to be on HBO Max. So if you're like, because Time Warner owns not only the Turner network, also HBO. So if you have HBO Max, as far as your cable, as far as your part of your package, because you have HBO on your cable system, your Uber system, like me, that this is good for you. And and like I said before, I mean, I was surprised that NBC decided to pull out, but I think, like you said, with sort of like the NBC Sports Network closing up shop, there was really no other place for them, unless you couldn't have put them all on Peacock, or we're going to put them on USA, or you're not going to cut into Bravo and all their reality programming. So you weren't going to do that.
Me personally, I wouldn't care, but there's a lot of people that care more about that. So like you said, they weren't going to mess that up. So
exactly. So this is TNT. There's really nothing much that comes on TNT. They got some scripted stuff, but for the most part, it's mostly like movies from like the last 20 years. So look, this is good. Like you said, for TNT and TBS. I mean, those networks are mainstays. They're basic cable networks, so people will be able to find it. So
it's not on True TV.
Yeah,
it's not on what's that other network? You can name a cable channel that most people don't watch. So
yeah, pretty much. Yeah, you can pretty much name it. But yeah,
excuse me.
This is nice for the NHL, and hopefully they can grow. And look, I think we'll see how their package is sort of lined up. This is sort of a secondary package. They're going to have the Stanley Cup final. They're going to have 3 games of that, probably on TNT, very likely. It's not going to interfere with their NBA contract. So look, it's going to be fine. I think this is a good investment for everybody. Like I said, it's interesting, but yeah, this should be a good investment and a win for everybody involved.
Yeah, so both those networks will start covering the NHL starting next fall. Lakeena, it's been another great episode of Sega City Sports when we talk to each other again. The Bears would have made their first round pick. Question mark, ... if they haven't traded up or traded back. And of course, we'll recap the Bulls' potential hot mess again. And I know the Blackhawks will play Tampa Bay this week, and they're barely hanging on to dear life as far as qualifying for this year's playoffs. And baseball should be very interesting in this town this upcoming week. Of course, the Cubs have Atlanta, and the Sox had the AJ Hinch cheating Detroit Tigers. So hopefully the Sox can do some more damage against another potentially bad team. So it should be a whole lot of fun this week. So when we reconvene for the weekend.
Lots of great sports this week. So you definitely have everybody has something to watch, which is great to see. So with that said, you can follow me at Keena McGee on the Twitter and at Keena McGee on the IG.
You can follow yours truly, Sidney Brown, on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, at SidKid80. That's SIDKID80, SIDKID80. And you can follow this podcast, Second City Sports, right here on YouTube at War Media every Monday and Friday. Once again, every Monday and Friday, right here on YouTube at WARR Media. You can catch our podcast every Tuesday and Saturday at War on Anchor. Once again, every Tuesday and Saturday at WARR on Anchor. That kicks you over to Spotify, iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Google Play, and the iHeartRadio app. We're available on all podcast platforms. Type in those search engine boxes, WARR on Anchor. You can go to our website, weareregalradio.com. That's WEAREREGAL radio.com. And you can follow us on all social media platforms. That's Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at War Media. Once again, at WARR Media on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thank you in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
Yes. For Lakeena, I am Sid. You have been listening to Second City Sports. Enjoy your week. We'll see you on our next episode for the weekend edition of Second City Sports.
See you later, everybody.
Till next time, holla!